I will talk about Israelite immigration across Asia and focus on Korea and Southeast Asia, and try to make a connection to Karen. And at the beginning of our talk, today's talk, Margaret said, I think, or Richard, that Korea and Karen sound similar. So
Yeah.
actually, there is a reason for that, and there's a huge historical background and evidences that Karen and Korea once belonged to a huge empire, and now what we have are just remnants.
Yeah.
I want to start with Psalm 107, because the whole scripture, Psalm 107, maybe describes the dispersion of Koreans or Asian Israelites, how they got there. So I will read from the scripture and go on. Sorry, where is it? Yes, and tell the story, history of Koreans by using this scripture. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hands of the foe, those he gathered from the lands, from the east and west, from the north and south. So I don't think I need to read them all. I will go on with my. So first of all, in the end times, Lord Jehovah will gather the scattered Israelites from all over the world. This is the first verse. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for his good, for his mercy endured forever. And let the redeemed of the Lord say, so whom he had redeemed from the hand of the enemy, and gathered them out of the lands from the east, from the west, and from the north, and from the south. So Koreans, like the Karen people in the second half of the 19th century, adopted Christianity because they recognized Christianity as their religion of their ancestors. So the evangelization of Korea began 250 years before the first arrival of a Western missionary in Korea. This is a very wondrous story. It began with a book written by Matteo Ricci, an Italian Jesuit who entered China to establish Chinese Jesuit mission. In 1602, he wrote a tractate entitled The True Meaning of the Lord of Heaven, Tianzhu Xi. It was a small booklet, and this booklet somehow got to Korea, and in 1079, 8 scholars came together and read this book, and then the Holy Spirit came upon them, and they recognized they accepted Jesus as their Lord, and they recognized Jehovah as their lost God. Among them was a 17 years old young man named Ha-Sung Chung. So he was one of our ancestors, my ancestor, and he became later the minister president of Joseon dynasty. But several thousand, beginning from this movement, several thousand became Christians, and they were persecuted because they said will not sacrifice anymore to our ancestors, because it is prohibited by the Bible. So many thousand people were persecuted by the state and died, and this all happened before even one Western missionary arrived in Korea. And Korea had several thousand or 10,000 of Christians at that time, and later the Pope sent bishops to Korea, and they established the Catholic Church in Korea. Today, South Korea is a country with the largest Christian population in Asia, with 30%, and 9 out of 10 largest churches in the world are based in Korea. And today we have 50,000 missionaries in all over the world, which make them the biggest missionary nation in the world. They have now surpassed the Americans. So everywhere where Americans retreat, Koreans go in to spread the gospel. And Korea has now the position that they are accepted even in the Muslim countries. Yeah, so it opens the door in all nations.
You know, Howard, excuse me, Howard, if I could just interrupt.
Yes.
Yeah, we have seen that in Uzbekistan. I think the Westerners were kicked out of Uzbekistan, but for some reason the Koreans were allowed to stay. And
yes,
yeah, so go ahead. I just wanted to say that.
yeah. They were scattered because they rebelled against their God. They were enslaved. So the scattering of Koreans happened not by force, but they came as slaves to Asia. So 11 verse 11 of Psalm 107, because they rebelled against the words of God and contempt the counsel of the Most High, they were brought down their heart with labor. They fell down and there was no help. So the spreading of Koreans in Asia happened in many waves. It started already in 11th century before Christ as slaves of Egyptians who founded the first colony in China, and they had as slaves mostly Koreans. So they were called in ancient Chinese E's, 9 E's, and E had the meaning slave. So Koreans, the most ancient Koreans were called slaves of Egyptians, E's of Hay people.
Can I interrupt again, Howard? There's
Yes.
a number of people within China, ethnic groups that seem to be related to the Hill tribe peoples who are called Yi.
Yes, yes. Yi is a very general people, and they are mostly called 9 E's, the 9 tribes of E's. I see them as 9 tribes of northern Israel. So northern Israelites consisted not of 10 tribes, but 9 tribes, because one tribe was included within South Israel as Judah. So 9 people were deported to Assyria. So from there, the 9E name was created. Third, they came to China by sea, and this is recorded in Psalm 107. It's interesting. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, This sees the work of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commanded and raised the storm winds, which lifted up the waves thereof. They mounted up to the heaven, they go down against the dead. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro and sticker like a drunken man, and are at their wretched end. So this story coming by ship is somehow can be found by famous Korean founding legend. I will read these legends. It is from a book from the 13th century. I will send you my script, my paper in fall, then you could find all the sources. So this is you can understand that only if you see them coming by ship. So Ha-Sung arrived at the head of an army of 3,000 men on Mount Tebek, which is called God's Mountain. Today, this place is called the Holy City. Ha-Sung was also called the King of Heaven. He taught the art of agriculture there with the help of sages, of laws, and other 360 things important to mankind, thus enlightening mankind for their blessing. At that time, there was a bear and a tiger who lived there and came to the holy city to be allowed to live with the people. Ha-Sung ordered that they should be taught the way. Their bodies and spirit were transformed by magic. Then their spirit were tamed, just as God originally created them. They were then given a bunch of mugwort and 20 heads of garlic, and it was explained, if you feed on these for 100 days and avoid the sunlight, you will attain humanity. Both the bear and tiger complied for 37 days. The bear endured the entire phase and thus attained humanity, while the tiger did not endure to the end, failing to achieve the desired goal. This was because both were different types. The bear became a woman, but she couldn't find a mate, so she prayed to the forest that she might get pregnant, and so on. So I see this as a historically 3,000 people from India, mainly Judah, people from Judah, came by ship and landed in southern China, in the area around Shanghai. And they found these northern Israelite people, the 9E. And they somehow got together. One part could be persuaded to unify with them, the others not. And the ones who persuaded to join them were the bears. And you can, I bring them together with Chu dynasty, because their family names were bears, the wrong people. And so they unified, and at the end, they became the biggest empire in whole southern China. It happened about 500 BC. We see many traces of Korean culture, Israeli culture in Chinese sources. I will mention just few of them. Levirat and Asylum cities and Sukkot, they had a Feast of Tabernacle. And the name of the first Korean state called Shoshan, the Joseon. And I bring it back to the Lilia side. So What is levirate? Levirate is the marriage by in-law, as it is an ancient Israelite tradition in which deceased brother marries his widow. It is prescribed in the Old Testament in Genesis 38:6. And we find many treatises in ancient states of Korea that they had this tradition of levirate. Asylum city is described in Exodus 21 that Israelites had to build cities where persons could flee who had accidentally killed someone. And we see it, throughout all Korean states also this prescription. They had, for example, in the book of Hanshu, because they strongly believed in spirit, they chose one man from each place to entrust him with leading the sacrifice to the sky god. And the purpose of establishing the Sotu is similar to that of building Buddhist monastery in Japan, so that some of the residents are good and some are rather bad. In Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacle, they met in the autumn for 5 days and sang together, read from the holy book, and drank a lot of wine. So, and the Shoshan, the lily.
Howard, let me ask you real quickly about the Feast of Tabernacles. So that was a Korean feast, right? It was a Korean feast, is that right?
Yes, it's a Korean feast, and it was always in the harvesting time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Shoshan, the first Korean state, Joseon name. The North Korea still call themselves Joseon. I bring it back to the Shoshan, Lilia. So what is Lilia? It is on the shekel, one shekel coin. It is built up after the first Babylonian coin, the Jewish merchants made in Babylonia 200 BC. So they took all this lilia emblem everywhere where they've gone. So this is a portrait of a king from the 8th century, and you see here the resemblance, Shoshan on the head, and you see many Shoshan signs in the Korean culture. And they became huge because God blessed them. So in 33, he turned rivers into wilderness and the water springs into dry ground, a fruitful land into barrenness, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. He turned the wilderness into a standing water, dry ground into water springs, and there he made them hungry to dwell, that they may prepare a city for habitation, and sow the fields and plant vineyards, which may yield fruit of increase. He blessed them also, so that they are multiplied greatly and suffered not their cattle to decrease. So from 500 BC to more than 1,000 years, they increased in China. And when Marco Polo arrived in China around 1300 AD, he tells China consists of 2 large states. One is Kitai and one is Manji. So what is Kitai and what is Manji from the historical point of view? Kitai refers to Khitan, and my interpretation is Gilead, the grandson of Manasseh, and Manji refers to Manchu, and this is Manasseh. So the whole Chinese continent was inhabited by Manasseh. The northern part, which means northern part is only north of Yangtze River. So North Yangtze River, there was the Liao dynasty, the Khitan, is also Manchi, but named after Gilead. And Manji is consisted of whole territory south of Yangtze River, and they called them Manchu, themselves as Manchu. So Manchu was not in the Manchuria of today, but it was south of Yangtze River, so the most fruitful area of China. So Manchu today is only a place where these people fled after their country was destroyed.
Howard, I'm going to interrupt again real quickly. Just in in the Manas epic of the Kyrgyz, both the Kitai and the Manchu are enemy.
Yes, they were enemy. So the Manchus, the Manasseh, fought among each other.
Okay.
Whereas the Manchu does not mean that all people were from Manasseh. It was a name of the state. That means the Israelites were led at the end by the tribe of Manchu, the Manasseh. But it consisted of all 12 tribes.
Okay, just wanted to
and
say.
they were destroyed again and again. It is how it is described in Psalm 39. Again, they were diminished and brought low through oppression, affliction, and sorrow. He poured contempt upon princesses and caused them to wander in the wilderness where there is no way. So God destroyed again and again the Israelite states on the Chinese continent. For example, Hatha clan, in my view, were also the Qindan dynasty who created the unification of China. So the Qin Huang, he was the first emperor of China. He was also Israelite, but he was destroyed. And they called themselves as Hatha meaning sinner, in Hebrew, Hatha. So they said, we sinned against the God, against Yahuwah, and now we are punished. And they fled to Korea and then to China, to Japan. Whereas I say Korea at that time and Japan at that time was not on the place where they live today. Japanese and Korean lived south of China. So in Korea, you find nothing from these ancient times. So Korea was virtually not inhabited until 18th century. The peninsula was only forest.
If you say south of China, then you're talking about Southeast China or Southeast Asia.
Southeast China. Yes, Southeast China. Yes. So south of Yangtze River.
So you're talking
Korea
about
was not on the Korean peninsula.
You're talking about Chengdu or Southeast or Myanmar?
No. I mean south of Shanghai. So like so Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Guangdu. So in the southern part of China, this was original Korean territory. I say this because you cannot explain how Korea could entertain an army of 3 million. They fought so many wars against against Tang and Sui and against Mongols. You know, with an army of 3 million, it is unimaginable to keep an army on the Korean peninsula. There is no food for these many people. So what happened was, when one state was destroyed, there were always refugees, and refugees were big enough to found big empires outside of China. So, for example, the first flight were the Yuji in 176 BC, and Yuji, UK will be pronounced in Old Chinese as Yuda. So they were Judeans, and they immigrated to Central Asia and found Sogdia in Samarkand and Kushan in northern India. So they were originally also from South China. And 300 years later, the Shengnu, called in Europe or by Westerners as Chionites, and they were Zionists, or also Huns. They founded the Heptalite Empire in Central Asia. The White Huns, they were called as White Huns by Romans in Persia, and they reached Europe and under the leadership of Attila, and founded many large states in Europe, like France. They were Merovingians. They were part of Huns, of Attila. So these people were only refugees from China, fleeing from China, but they were strong enough to conquer every territory they passed. So I will make few comments of the connection between Korea and Karen. Korea, in my opinion, comes from Korah, sons of Korah, tribe of Levites, in Chinese called Kaoli, and in Korean Koryo, and it is the same name as Karen, so Ka in Korean. If the connection between Karen and Korean, I will just display some old cultural tradition. You will find it also in current, among the currents. Like if you get a male son, you put this paper in front of your door. I think this tradition also exists in the hill countries in northern India, and also among the Karen in Myanmar. Or this playing with many children play, like here with lines, or jumping on this on this whip, or children playing with pebbles. I think you can recognize this is a pattern throughout from Korea to Southeast Asia. It's just only some traditions, but if you go deeper, like naming after the time of your birth and the star constellation, is I think the same tradition throughout in Korea to Karen and other South Asian Israelite states. So our history is a testimony of the faithfulness of God. The righteous shall see it and rejoice, and all iniquity shall stop from out. Who is wise and will observe these things, even they shall understand the loving kindness of the Lord. So we have a great spreading, of Israelites, and one of the main centers where in China, where God increased Israelite nations, or the people, make them hundreds of millions, and they spread in all places, to China, to Korea, to Japan, and to Europe. So the testimony shall be in Psalm 118:17. We shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord, work of Jehovah. So that we are still living and now have become great nations shall testify that God kept his promise. And then this was the work of Jehovah, not by ourselves. Thank you. That was it. So
thank you, Howard. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Howard Chung, I appreciate that. It's really wonderful. And obviously, it seems like every slide could be a new essay. For those who are listening, does anybody want or have a question for Dr. Howard Chung?
I just want to say, when he started talking about the traditions between the Karen and the Koreans, that the two women sitting next to me got very excited because they recognized everything that you put up there. So one Mizo lady, one Karen lady.
Yeah.
Hey,
Manasseh is not only small stream. The whole China was filled with Manasseh people. So what we have is only remnant from this huge country.
You know,
and they forgot
this symposium was put on by a man named General P.S. Halkip. He's the one who invited us. Because of some of the wars in Southeast Asia, he has not been able to make it here yet. But his goal was to unite the scattered children of Manasseh. That was one of his goals for this symposium. And I found it astounding how we just keep running into Manasseh again and again in Asia.
So Richard, Dr. Guga, is that right?
I'm not a doctor. Teacher.
You're not, you're a teacher. Oh, sorry, she's a teacher. She just wants to say something to Howard.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, it's for me, it's not the first time that I have heard about this, about Korean and Karen people. And yes, now we have some of Karen young men who are going to Korean for prepare themselves to be coming back to like teach them in the Bible college. Yeah. And yes, and I have been meet a lot of Korean missionary come to Thailand. They love to come to Korean people. And like we have a friend, a lot of missionary friends who come to Thailand. And they also say, like you say, we are like, when we meet each other, it sounds like we are friends. We are brother and sister, you know. They love to come to, when they are a missionary coming to Thailand, they love to finding out Korean people and work with Korean people. Yes, that's the thing that I want to share, because of it is interesting for me to hear from this.
Yes, great. I really wanted to travel to the Karen people to see it by myself.